is to be honest with people. There is no way you can lie yourself out of a bad situation.
The story of Dr. Jan Pol and his son Charles is one shaped by admiration and sorrow, public success and private struggle. To millions of viewers around the world, Dr. Pol is the calm, dependable veterinarian who never hesitates in the face of chaos. Week after week, on the incredible Dr. Pol, audiences watched him step into barns, clinics, and muddy fields, saving animals with steady hands and unwavering confidence. But behind that familiar image lies a family story far more complex than whatever appeared on screen. It is a story of pressure, sacrifice, and the emotional weight of carrying a legacy that belongs to more than one generation. While Dr. Pol became the face of the series, it was his son Charles who quietly carried much of its burden. Rarely in the spotlight, Charles worked relentlessly behind the scenes, shaping the show's direction, protecting its authenticity, and ensuring that his father's life's work was portrayed with honesty and respect. Yet, as the series grew into a global phenomenon, so did the emotional toll on the family. For Charles, success came hand in hand with heartbreak, forcing him to navigate personal loss, public expectation, and the constant challenge of stepping out from his father's shadow. Dr. Pol's journey began long before cameras followed him. Raised with strong values and a deep respect for hard work, he built his veterinary practice from the ground up in rural Michigan. His days were long, physically demanding, and often unpredictable. Rural veterinary medicine offered no shortcuts. One moment might involve delivering a calf in freezing temperatures, the next performing a critical surgery with limited resources. For Dr. Pol, this wasn't a job. It was a commitment to a community that depended on him. That sense of responsibility became the foundation of everything that followed. When the incredible Dr. Pol first aired, it stood apart from other reality television shows. There were no scripted moments or manufactured drama. What viewers saw was real life, messy, emotional, and sometimes heartbreaking. Animals didn't always survive. Owners didn't always leave with good news. And Dr. Pol didn't pretend otherwise. The show resonated because it reflected reality, not perfection. But that authenticity didn't maintain itself. It was carefully guarded. And much of that responsibility fell to Charles. From the beginning, Charles understood that the show could easily lose its soul if it chased ratings instead of truth. As a producer, he focused on preserving the emotional core of the work. He wanted viewers to feel the weight of difficult decisions, the exhaustion after long days, and the compassion that drove his father forward. Even when the work took its toll, Charles believed that the audience deserved more than success stories. They needed to see vulnerability, doubt, and humanity. His role extended far beyond production meetings and editing decisions. Charles became the bridge between two worlds, his father's traditional, no-nonsense approach to veterinary care and the evolving demands of modern television. He helped translate raw reality into compelling storytelling without compromising integrity. Whether coordinating filming schedules, assisting during farm calls, or simply being present during stressful moments, Charles proved that his contribution was as emotional as it was professional. As the show's popularity exploded, so did the pressures that came with it. Fame brought recognition, but it also stripped away the quiet life the Pol family once knew. Privacy became a luxury. Their routines, once simple and predictable, were now shaped by filming schedules, fan encounters, and constant public attention. Pol. The work continued much as it always had. But for Charles, the responsibility grew heavier. He wasn't just producing a television show. He was protecting his family's image, values, and emotional well-being. What many viewers never realized was that Charles had once imagined a very different future for himself. Long before returning home, he had pursued his own dreams in Hollywood. He studied communications, interned at major studios, and worked alongside respected figures in the entertainment industry. He learned storytelling from the inside out, developing skills that could have taken him far from rural Michigan. But when he saw the potential in his father's life and work, he made a defining choice, one that would shape the rest of his career. Returning home meant setting aside personal ambitions, at least temporarily. It meant stepping into a role that tied his identity closely to his father's success. While the decision brought pride and fulfillment, it also carried quiet sacrifice. Charles often found himself balancing creative instincts with family loyalty, asking himself where his own story ended and his father's began. It was a tension that followed him throughout the show's run. Despite the challenges, The Incredible Dr. Pol became more than television. It became a shared experience for millions, offering a rare glimpse into rural life, community bonds, and the fragile line between life and loss. Each episode reflected not just veterinary care, but the strength of a family working together under constant pressure. And at the heart of it all stood Charles, unseen by many, but essential to everything. Yet even as the show thrived, life beyond the camera continued to unfold in ways no one could control. Success could not shield the Pol family from pain. And as time passed, the emotional weight Charles carried would deepen, shaped by loss, responsibility, and the realization that even the strongest legacies come with a cost. As The Incredible Dr. Pol gained momentum, it began to reshape not only how audiences viewed veterinary medicine, but how the Pol family experienced their own lives. What started as a modest project documenting rural veterinary work quickly evolved into an international phenomenon. Viewers from around the world tuned in to watch Dr. Pol navigate impossible situations with limited resources, making decisions that carried real consequences. The show didn't glamorize the work, it honored it. And in doing so, it changed everything. Rural veterinary medicine, often overlooked and misunderstood, became the heart of the series. Unlike urban clinics, with specialized teams and advanced equipment readily available, Dr. Pol faced unpredictable challenges every day. He was not just a veterinarian, he was a surgeon, emergency responder, counselor, and neighbor, all at once. Animals didn't arrive neatly scheduled, and emergencies didn't wait for convenience. The show captured that reality with unflinching honesty, revealing a profession built on resilience and deep emotional investment. The Pol family farm became an extension of that story. Surrounded by animals of every kind, the land symbolized a way of life, rooted in responsibility and respect for nature. Cows, horses, chickens, and countless other animals weren't props. They were part of the family's daily rhythm. Viewers felt as though they were stepping into a living world where work and life blended seamlessly. This authenticity became one of the show's greatest strengths, creating a sense of connection that kept audiences returning season after season. But with success came an unavoidable shift. The quiet privacy the Pol family once enjoyed slowly disappeared. Fans wanted photos, stories, and access. While the admiration was genuine, the constant attention created pressure that never truly eased. For Charles, this shift was especially challenging. As both a producer and a central figure in shaping the show, he felt responsible for maintaining the balance between openness and protection. Charles worked tirelessly to ensure the series never lost its grounding. He resisted the temptation to sensationalize moments for ratings, insisting that the show remain faithful to real experiences, even when reality was uncomfortable or emotionally heavy. This commitment wasn't easy. Networks demanded consistency. Audiences expected powerful stories, and the family itself was living those stories in real time. Charles found himself constantly walking a tightrope, preserving authenticity while meeting the demands of a growing global audience. Behind the scenes, the scale of production expanded dramatically. What viewers saw as effortless storytelling required an enormous amount of coordination. Filming rural veterinary work was physically demanding and unpredictable. Emergencies didn't follow scripts. Weather didn't cooperate. Days stretched long into nights. A dedicated crew worked alongside the Pol family, many returning year after year, forming bonds that extended beyond professional obligation. The crew became a second family, united by a shared belief in the story they were telling. Despite the growing success, the weight of responsibility on Charles only increased. He wasn't just telling his father's story. He was shaping how the world perceived it. Every edit, every narrative choice carried emotional consequences. He understood that the show represented more than entertainment. It reflected a lifetime of work, values, and sacrifice. Protecting that legacy became a personal mission. Yet no amount of preparation could shield the family from controversy. As the show's visibility grew, so did scrutiny. Dr. Pol's veterinary practices faced criticism and formal complaints, sparking debates that extended beyond the screen. While supporters defended his experience and dedication, critics questioned methods rooted in decades of rural practice. These controversies added another layer of stress, forcing the family to navigate public judgment while continuing their work. For Charles, these moments were particularly painful. He stood at the intersection of loyalty and responsibility, defending his father while managing the show's reputation. The emotional strain was relentless. Even as episodes continued to air successfully, the pressure behind the scenes intensified. Fame had brought opportunity, but it had also exposed the family to constant evaluation and misunderstanding. Then came the moment no one was prepared for, the end. After more than 2 decades on air, the announcement of the incredible Dr. Pol's retirement made headlines. Pol's cancellation sent shockwaves through the fan base. For viewers, it felt like saying goodbye to a trusted presence in their lives. Petitions flooded in, expressing heartbreak and disbelief. Many felt the show had ended too soon, especially in a genre already losing meaningful storytelling. For the Pol family, the news was deeply personal. For Charles, the cancellation marked the end of a defining chapter. The show had shaped his adult life, his career, and his identity. It was the project that brought him home, connected him to his father in profound ways, and allowed him to share a story that mattered. Seeing it conclude was not just professional disappointment, it was emotional loss. Long-running series face inevitable challenges. Ratings fluctuate. Physical demands take their toll. Production becomes more complex with time. Combined with controversy and shifting viewer habits, sustaining the show grew increasingly difficult. Still, the finality of its end left a quiet emptiness. Charles was left reflecting on what came next, and who he would be without the project that had defined him for so long. Yet even in that moment of uncertainty, something remained unchanged. The Pol family's commitment to one another endured. The values that built the show, compassion, resilience, honesty, did not vanish with the final episode. For Charles, the end was painful, but it also forced him to confront a deeper question: how to honor a legacy without being trapped by it. As the camera stopped rolling, the journey did not end. It simply changed direction. And for Charles, the hardest chapters, both personal and emotional, were still unfolding. With the cameras gone and the familiar routine disrupted, Charles Pol faced a reality he had long postponed, defining himself beyond his father's shadow. For years, his identity had been closely tied to the incredible Dr. Pol. He was the visionary behind the scenes, yet his name was always spoken in relation to someone else. While he took pride in protecting his father's legacy, the weight of it was undeniable. Stepping forward as his own person proved to be one of the most difficult challenges of his life. Charles had never lacked ambition. Long before returning to Michigan, he dreamed of a future built on storytelling, creativity, and personal expression. His early years in Hollywood shaped him, teaching him how stories move people. how authenticity builds trust, and how powerful a well-told narrative can be. But choosing to return home meant placing those dreams on pause. For a long time, he accepted that sacrifice without hesitation. Yet, as the years passed, questions lingered quietly beneath the surface. What part of his life truly belonged to him? Balancing creative freedom with responsibility was a constant struggle. Even as the show brought him recognition as a producer, Charles found it difficult to separate his own accomplishments from the family name. Every success felt shared. Every criticism felt personal. The responsibility of maintaining the Pol legacy became even heavier after the show ended. Without the structure of production schedules and episodes, Charles had to confront his own direction head-on. Amid this professional uncertainty, the Pol family faced a devastating personal tragedy that would forever alter their lives. In 2019, they lost Adam, Dr. Pol's grandson and Charles's nephew, suddenly and far too young. Adam was only 23 years old, a young man with ambition, compassion, and a future full of promise. His passing sent shockwaves through the family, leaving a grief that words could never fully capture. The family chose to keep the details private, but the pain was profound. Loss of this magnitude doesn't fade quietly. It lingers in everyday moments, in empty spaces, and in unanswered questions. For Charles, the tragedy struck at a time when he was already navigating emotional and professional transition. Grieving while remaining strong for others became an unspoken expectation. Public life rarely allows room for private sorrow. This was not the first loss the family had endured. Over the years, they had faced illness, hardship, and the passing of loved ones. Each loss tested their resilience, yet it also strengthened their bond. In moments of grief, the Pol family leaned on one another, drawing strength from shared values instilled long before fame arrived. For Charles, these experiences deepened his understanding of responsibility, not just to a legacy, but to the people who carried it with him. Balancing grief with public responsibility was exhausting. Charles continued to appear strong, engaged, and forward-focused, even as he carried personal pain behind closed doors. The show, once a source of creative energy, became a reminder of both connection and loss. Yet even in sorrow, Charles found purpose. He began speaking more openly about compassion, not only for animals, but for people facing silent struggles of their own. Beyond television, Charles devoted more time to causes that reflected his values. Animal welfare advocacy became more than a professional interest. It was personal. He supported rescue organizations, shelters, and community initiatives that mirrored the compassion he grew up witnessing. These efforts allowed him to make an impact beyond the screen, grounding him during a time of emotional upheaval. Nature also became a source of healing. Hiking, exploring wildlife, and spending time outdoors offered moments of clarity when words failed. In solitude, Charles found space to reflect, grieve, and rebuild. These quiet moments helped him reconnect with himself, not as a producer or son of a television icon, but as an individual searching for balance. As time passed, the Pol family began to look forward again. Rather than retreat from the public eye, they chose to adapt. New projects emerged that honored their roots while allowing room for growth. The transition wasn't easy. Creating something new meant letting go of what once defined them. But Charles understood that legacy is not preserved by standing still. It survives through evolution. One of the most meaningful transitions came through a renewed focus on land, family, and shared purpose. The idea of transforming undeveloped land into a working farm wasn't just a project. It was a symbol. It represented continuity, resilience, and the belief that hard work still mattered. Charles played a central role in shaping this next chapter, blending storytelling with authenticity once again. Working alongside his father in a new context allowed their relationship to evolve. No longer bound by the pressures of long-running television production, they found space for collaboration rooted in mutual respect rather than obligation. Charles's creative instincts found new freedom, while Dr. Pol's experience anchored the project in tradition. Together, they moved forward, not chasing the past, but building upon it. Then came a moment that reshaped everything. In 2019, Charles became a father. The birth of his daughter marked the beginning of a new generation within the Pol family. Fatherhood brought perspective that no career milestone ever could. Suddenly, legacy wasn't just about honoring the past. It was about shaping the future. The values Charles had spent years protecting now had a new purpose to be passed on. Watching his daughter bond with her grandfather became a powerful reminder of continuity. The same compassion, work ethic, and quiet strength that defined Dr. Pol's life now lived on in moments shared across generations. For Charles, this was a full-circle experience, one that softened past struggles and offered renewed meaning. Through loss, transition, and renewal, Charles Pol emerged changed but resilient. His journey was never about escaping his father's shadow. It was about learning how to stand beside it without losing himself. The challenges he faced shaped him into more than a producer or caretaker of a legacy. They shaped him into a storyteller who understood that the most meaningful stories are built not on success alone, but on perseverance, love, and the courage to continue when life takes unexpected turns. And as the Pol family stepped into a future shaped by both memory and hope, one truth remained clear. Their story was far from over. Through triumph and loss, the Pol family's journey reveals the quiet power of resilience. Charles Pol's path was shaped by sacrifice, grief, and an unwavering commitment to storytelling that honors truth over spectacle. From preserving his father's legacy to building a future for his daughter, he learned that strength often grows from hardship. Their story reminds us that even when one chapter ends, purpose endures, and family, compassion, and perseverance carry us forward.